Am I the asshole for having my husband drive me back to shore when I wasn't allowed to fish? I 32F rented a boat 2 weeks ago to go fishing. My husband suggested we celebrate his birthday at the same time, which is coming right up, because he loves boating. I had no problem with it, but the whole rental was originally so I could fish. He invited our mutual friend Greg along, which was no big deal. But it soon turned into Greg driving everywhere and telling us to relax and have a few beers. He refused to sit in one spot for more than 10–15 minutes, so I wasn't able to fish at all. Every time I would have a line out for more than 5 minutes, he would ask if we were ready to move on to the next spot. At one point even bringing us to a crowded sandbar beach where I obviously wasn't able to fish. Roughly 3 hours in, I asked if they could stop driving around so I could do some fishing, and he immediately stopped the boat, no questions asked. But it got really awkward after that. Greg making comments about how he wished he liked to fish so he could understand the hype of sitting in one single spot while on a boat because he can't stand it. Heavy sighing and pacing the boat, etc. I know for a fact he wasn't trying to be a dick. He truly just couldn't stand sitting in one spot so that I could fish. So my husband at this point was getting uncomfortable with how awkward Greg was unintentionally making things and said, "Well babe, are you about ready to move to the next spot?" At this point I just asked them to bring me back to shore. Both of them started protesting and apologizing, saying it was fine and we could stay there longer, but at this point I was so over the entire trip because I didn't get to fish more than 25 minutes at this point. They bring me back to shore, still apologizing, and Greg saying he was sorry for ruining my fishing trip, and I just said it was fine and walked off to my car without saying another word to them. Well, after my husband got home he was really quiet, and when I asked why, he said that it was a bummer that I chose to leave instead of just enjoying the boat for what it was. He said he understands my frustrations, but he couldn't understand why I took it to a level of ruining my entire day and leaving him on the boat that was meant for us. Greg paid me half of the cost I spent to make up for it too, so now I'm wondering if I'm really in the wrong considering the whole point of me getting the boat was to go fishing. Am I the asshole? ETA. Both Greg and my husband knew I rented the boat to fish. My husband even brought his fishing pole but didn't end up using it. Not the asshole. Inviting Greg defeated the entire purpose. Lesson learned, I hope. Not the asshole. You wanted to fish and rented a boat. You weren't able to fish. Letting Greg do the day the way he wanted to do it was a mistake. He was your guest, and should have behaved like one. Not the asshole. Greg is a bad guest. They know your hobby is fishing, right? They know you originally rented the boat to fish, right? They should have been courteous and split up the boat time equally. Also, Greg should take his own advice. Relax, have a few more beers, instead of pacing and complaining like a child. Let's be clear here, Greg knew exactly how annoying he was being. He was actively being a dick. He knew you wanted to fish, but he wanted to play boat captain, and go around to different spots. He knew he was being awkward. He was pacing, sighing, and creating social pressure to give in to his wishes. He could have easily sat down, relaxed, and enjoyed the day. But he chose to act like a jerk. Greg behaved badly. You're not the asshole, but your husband allowed his friend to ruin your time. Your husband and Greg are the assholes here. Not the asshole. Quite literally, the reason you got the boat in the first place was so you could enjoy fishing. That was implicit in the act of getting the boat. If they wanted a booze cruise, they could have actually talked to you before changing the plan. Your husband knew what your plans were and suggested joining you. He also didn't take into consideration that a boat day for the two of you usually shouldn't include a third person who then wants to change the entire plan for the day. Both of them ruined what was supposed to be a relaxing day for you and now are sulking because they want an apology from you for making them uncomfortable. Not the asshole, but who is your husband married to? You or Greg, because he certainly cared more about him than you. Info. Does your husband like to fish? If not, it sounds like you rented a boat for you and disguised it as a birthday present? In which case, I'd change my vote. Am I the asshole for not wanting to be Sam and find a job instead? My husband's father passed away recently. He grew up on a large farm in Kansas and him and his mother inherited the farm. My husband, John, 24 male, and I, 21 female, met while he was living in New Orleans, attending Tulane on athletic scholarship, and I was working as a waitress. We fell in love and he proposed quickly. We married a few months ago and I am currently 3 months pregnant. We've been living in Nola, but since his father's passing, his mother needs help with the farm and he suggested we move there, and it will be better for the child to be raised on the farm anyway. I didn't really want to do that, but I agreed as I knew how much it meant to him. When we got there, I was surprised how big and isolated the farm was. My husband and I share one car and his mother has another. I asked to take the car the other day to go to town to look for jobs, but he sat me down and told me it wouldn't be very practical for me to have a job ATM because we only have 2 cars for 3 people and they can't spare one for me to take for 8 hours a day, and they can't drive me to and from work when there's so much to be done on the farm. I wasn't very happy about that, but it made sense. So I looked for some jobs online, and when we were eating dinner, I started the subject again, saying that I think I will look for some work from home jobs, but I will need stable internet connection, and asked if there's any way we can change providers, as it's a bit slow. He told me all work from home jobs are scam and he doesn't want me falling into a trap, and that he needs the laptop available at all times to communicate with his customers. I was devastated but didn't want to argue, and I understand that his work is currently supporting us all, including his mother. We had a small family gathering and his sister and Sil asked me why I didn't want to be Sam. I explained them everything. And they told me I should think of my family first, that all kids in this family are raised by Sam and I should just go with it and everyone will be happier. I said that I would get bored and I need a job to help supporting us, but they kept telling me that I should listen to my husband. When everyone left, John came to our bedroom and we had our first, massive argument. He told me I embarrassed him in front of his family. He told me he can't believe how heartless I am being and that I clearly don't care enough for our baby to stay home and raise him. He called me an asshole and told me it's best if I slept in guest room for a few nights. He hasn't spoken to me since, and his mother told me I hurt him and all of them by refusing to carry on family tradition of being a Sam, and that I am bringing shame to him, showing that he can't support his family. And I am torn. I thought I knew what I wanted, but everyone is telling me otherwise and my head is a mess. Am I really the asshole for wanting to find a job? Is it really that wrong of me? I thought I was right, but now, I am doubting myself. This is screaming isolation tactics. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Get out of that house now. You do not want to be trapped on an isolated farm in Kansas with no money of your own, no car, and a baby. The longer you wait, the harder it will be to get away. Not the asshole. This is how abusive relationships start. He has already managed to isolate you from friends and family. He is now getting his family against you and trying to make you financially dependent on him. Pack your bags, go back to Nola and file for divorce. Not the asshole. It is a good thing you found out about this now. Best recommendation is to move back to Nola. It seems your husband is showing his true colors by being controlling and denying you your happiness. The 50s called they want their mentality back. Not the asshole. I'd reconsider the whole relationship if I were you. There's enough red flags to decorate a Chiense embassy. This is giving off massive sleeping with the enemy vibes. Not the asshole. I'm actually kinda worried for you. I would leave and talk to a lawyer. IDK if you have family, but I would call and talk to them as well. My husband will be a SAHH for our kid cause I work from home, making 6 figures. He is full of it. Teleworking jobs aren't scams, face with rolling eyes. And we realized all his paycheck would go to childcare. I would never ever tell him he must stay home for that reason though. We both made the choice as partners. If your husband isn't going to treat you like a partner, run. Am I the asshole for taking the closest parking space even though a pregnant coworker asked for it? We have a parking lot at my workplace and there are a few prime spots close to the door. Most of them are reserved for managers etc., but one is unreserved and works on a first-come first-served type situation. Most of the time I park there because I have an old knee injury, so the closer the better and more convenient. It's obviously the spot everyone wants, so I always make sure to try get in a bit earlier so I could grab it. One of my coworkers is pregnant. Don't have the slightest clue how far, but she's showing and has complained about how packed the parking lot gets, which forces her to park a distance from the door. Basically, she's been going around asking people if they could leave that space open for her. She's never asked me directly but left a note on my desk a couple days ago asking the same. The next day I parked in the spot like always and she came by my office to ask if I saw her note. I told her I did, but unfortunately if the spot is open, I'm going to take it. Like I get it and I wasn't going to fight over the spot, but if she wants it she should just wake up early. She tried arguing a bit but eventually left. She lodged an unofficial complaint to the boss who told me about it but doesn't want to get involved. I've been catching glares and some obvious gossiping murmurs from a couple co-workers about it. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. It is an open spot. First come first serve. She wants it? Then come early enough to get it. Her bump doesn't give her priority. Nah, no assholes here. Accommodations for pregnancy, at work are a thing under AITA guidelines, and some state laws, so her talking to the boss about a close parking spot could fall under that umbrella. Sounds like he wasn't convinced. But you realize that pregnancy is not permanent, right? So you could allow her the spot, or really, just not zoom in early every single day to snag it. If someone else does, then she has to deal with them, until she goes out on leave. That probably would have left you in better standing all over the office than doing what you're officially permitted to do. It's nice to be nice. This comment section is a mess, wow. But especially your boss for not arranging something with your pregnant coworker. You don't owe anyone an explanation of your disability, but it would most likely smooth things over if your coworker knew you weren't being malicious. There's just competing access needs at play. Now, the actual solution here is for you or her or both of you to apply for a disability placard or tag. They're available for short-term use by pregnant women in many places. If you're in the US, then disability parking spots in parking lots are mandated by law, so IDK why you haven't tried to get a tag before now when it's an accommodation that obviously makes your life easier. You're both turning this into a competition when it doesn't have to be. You are the asshole. When I was pregnant, I chose to park far because exercise is good for me. Another woman at the office had legs so swollen she had to wear flip-flops. I would think that she's asking for the spot because she is struggling with something. Exhaustion, sickness, fatigue, soreness, etc. She doesn't have to explain her condition to you. By the same token, you don't have to leave the spot open. But would it kill you to consider someone else's needs ahead of your own for a few months? Not the asshole. There's a good chance that if you left it open, a third person would get to before her. Then she'd have to look that person up, after that a fourth person would take it, etc. If she's unwilling to get there earlier, she's got nothing to gripe about. No assholes here. Every pregnancy is different, so I'm not going to pretend to know exactly how your coworker is feeling. But pregnancy can be rough. Hormones are all over the place, wreaking physical and mental havoc. And later on, ligaments start to stretch quite painfully. This is why the pregnancy isn't a disability line just makes people sound ignorant. Pregnancy takes a huge toll on the body. It makes sense that she'd ask people to leave her the spot. That being said, you're not taking the spot out of malice. You prefer it for the same reason she does, to make your life easier. If you're feeling generous, maybe leave the spot open on good, better knee days. Am I the asshole for going to my stepdaughter's 11 birthday party instead of my son's 18 graduation party? Throwaway account. I, 46M, have 2 sons, 20, Andy, and 18, Sam, from my previous marriage. I got divorced from their mother about 7 years ago and have been in my stepdaughter, Emma's, life for 6 years. I love her to death, and I see her as my own kid. Sam graduated back in June and was having a graduation party about a month later. But his party happened to be the same day as Emma's birthday party. She was really excited about her birthday and told me she wanted me to stay for her party. I said I'd try and call my son about it. The day before their parties, I told Sam I would try and stop by, but he kept insisting I come for the full thing. I told him I'd try, but Emma's birthday party is on the same day, and my wife and I have been planning it for over a month now. He just said, okay, and hung up the phone. Fast forward to the day of both parties. My wife said I should go to Sam's party. I was planning on doing so, but Emma told me she really wanted me to stay. I didn't want her to be sad at her party, so I agreed and told them I would just leave later. Emma's party was from 4:06 and Sam's was from 4:30–7:30, so I was thinking I had plenty of time. I live over an hour away from my son, so I was planning to leave early. Anyway, I was helping my wife with a lot of stuff, taking care of the kids, and other things. By then, it's already 6 p.m. and I feel bad. I have so many things to help my wife with for cleaning up, and since I live over an hour away, I know I can't make it. I did go to his graduation, so I assumed just going the day after to see him would be fine. Boy, was I wrong. I call him after that and he practically goes insane, telling me he's extremely angry, saying I love Emma more than my biological kid, and that I always forget about him. He then tells me he doesn't want me to come the next day and doesn't want me to talk to him. I haven't missed a lot of his events, so I feel like he's overreacting. I didn't go to his 18th birthday party because of a big meeting I had, and I get why he was mad about that, but this seems like an overreaction. I apologized to him, but he didn't accept it. My ex-wife and wife said I should have gone and that I was being an idiot. My oldest son says I always choose Emma over him, which is not true, and that I was being a horrible father. I do feel bad, but I lost track of time. He won't talk to me and neither will my oldest son. Am I the asshole? You are the asshole. My oldest son says I always choose Emma over him, which is not true. IDK my guy, in this case, you absolutely did choose Emma over him. It doesn't help that you say at least twice that he's overreacting, trying to negate his feelings on the issue. You are the asshole. You could have done both things, but catered to your stepdaughter. It wasn't even a round or particularly important birthday either, whilst a graduation is an actual accomplishment. Especially on top of you missing his 18th birthday, which is one of the important birthdays I mentioned. You are the asshole. This is a pattern, and he's called you out on it. Your wife even encouraged you to do the right thing and you still ignored it. Minimizing his hurt as overreactions is very sad for him. He is obviously feeling rejected by you. Think carefully about the relationship you want to have with him, because continuing this pattern is like asking for him to reject you from his life in the future. Do you want him to introduce future SOs to you? To be invited to his wedding, and have relationships with any future kids? Do you want to be a part of his successes? Because right now it doesn't seem like it, and it's hurting him. Own your behavior, apologize, and do better in the future. You are the asshole. You prioritized work over your son on his 18th birthday and then prioritized your stepdaughter over your son on his graduation party. That is two things you apparently consider more important than your son and his feelings. Also, your stepdaughter is 11. That means you have at least 7 more years with her in the house to attend her events. Sam, though? This was the very last of his childhood events that will ever happen, and you didn't even consider it important enough to go to. You were absolutely a horrible father to Sam, and it wasn't the first time. It does sound like he's done with you, though, so I guess there is consolation in the fact he will never give you the chance to hurt him again. Your son that you blew off says you're an aw. Your other son says you're an aw. Your ex-wife says you're an aw. Your current wife says you're an aw. That adds up to you are the asshole. Do better before you permanently destroy your relationship with at least one son, but likely both at this point. But I guess it's okay because you have your SD woman shrugging medium light skin tone. You are the asshole. A child has a birthday every year. They only graduate from high school once in a lifetime.